If you've ever been asked by your cardiologist to perform a stress test, I hope you received that as a gift. See, stress tests are super common and they're very necessary because they reveal how your heart functions under normal and stressful circumstances. After connecting you to some monitors and such, your doctor can put you on a treadmill or a stationary bike, and then he can begin assessing how well your heart is actually handling the pumping of your blood through your body as you're continuing to push your heart harder throughout the test. Well, there's a similar stress test called a nuclear stress test, and they do the same things, but they also take imaging pictures, both before and after the procedure. And it's called nuclear for a reason because they light you up inside, injecting radioactive dye into your veins. And now they can see what's going on in your heart. It's fully identifiable through the imaging that they capture. And they take pictures of your heart while it's at rest, while it's normal. And then they take more pictures of your heart while it's under stress from the exercise. And then these images give your doctor a much clearer visual of how the blood is really moving through your heart so that he knows the best kind of treatment plan for you. Well, what I think is interesting is that even though our heart may function well while it's at rest, it might not function well when it's put under stress, even though it's the same heart. Ignorance about whether we have a heart complication or not could directly affect our overall quality and length of life. And you know, I can't help but see how this is so true of our spiritual heart as well. Jesus regularly spoke about things that seem to reveal what's going on inside of our heart, that spiritual place in us where our emotions and our desires live. He knew that people would always have to live in this tension of how our heart is both deceitful and yet also the wellspring of life. And the truth is, it's challenging for us to clearly see how big of a problem this really is in our life, how our desires have been warped by sin. But Jesus points out that as hard as we may try, eventually we will show ourselves to be who we really are by the evidence we leave along the way. Chad says it like the fruit is determined by the root. The fruit, the evidence in our lives that people see on the outside of us, is determined by the root, which comes from our heart. Well, with the Bible primarily being a relationship book teaching us how to live in right relationship with God and with others, I love how in Matthew we get to see Jesus address a couple of scenarios and how he coaches the people how to do this better the next time. So let's read that in Matthew 6, 2-4. It says, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. And if you do, you have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, don't announce it loudly like the hypocrites do to be honored by others. They have received their reward in full if they do that. But instead, when you give to the needy, don't even let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." Well, one of the ways the Jewish people tried to show this evidence of them being in right relationship with God and with others was by being charitable and generous, sharing their resources with other people who were in need. So as Jesus is talking to them about this, he says, don't do the right thing for the wrong reason, for the purpose of being seen by people and trying to influence what they think about you. Jesus is describing this subtle way that our motives for doing good can be more about a deeper desire for admiration and praise from others and much less about genuine love that we actually have for someone else. See, he doesn't want our generosity to be a performance. He doesn't want it to be something to build our ego. So he tells us, be generous and don't let anyone know. Because your choice to do it privately instead of publicly will help you with what's really going on inside your heart. It will either pour water on your burning desire for others to see how awesome you think you are, or if your heart's already doing it for the right reason, you're going to just be getting in more reps and training for having a pure heart. It's so cool to me, though, what I think I can see Jesus doing here. This scenario is kind of like his version of a nuclear stress test, where this counterintuitive act of selflessly giving generously to others becomes like that radioactive dye in our veins, immediately lighting us up so that now what's going on inside our heart is fully identifiable to Jesus as he's capturing this clear picture of what's really happening inside our heart. When we pretend to be someone we're not, there's a cost because he sees. And when he sees us trying to pretend with others, trying to look more like him than we actually are, it shifts the blessing. We forfeit a much better blessing for our soul when we do this, when we pretend. And we accept this cheap praise from man in exchange for the better blessing that comes from the rich relationships that we're creating with other people and with God. The fruit is determined by the root. And this is why Jesus gives us this challenge in Matthew 6, just be real. And since you struggle with that a lot, he whispers, I'm going to help you not give in to the temptation of forfeiting the blessing that I have for you. And I'm just going to tell you, do it in secret. The stress test is a gift. It reveals how our heart functions under normal and stressful situations. Jesus knows we all have heart complications. He wants to celebrate the ways our heart functions well, and he wants to help identify the best kind of treatment plan for you for the times when he sees your heart failing due to the stress of brokenness and sin. How healthy is your heart, really? Who could you bless today in private? And then honestly assess with God how easy or difficult that was for you and maybe why. And be encouraged. He's not going to give up on us no matter how many times we fall short. But he does know that transformation requires training. And I just want to say there is no better time to get your heart rate up than today.